And you can come in and you say, you think these are all the same but you better find me 2 more people.
Oh, yes, okay. Yeah. Well, we'll just, when I come back in, we'll just pull them out of the crowd. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good evening everyone. We're going to go through an actual protest this evening, and this one is nicely complicated in that it brings up a few issues, a few different issues that perhaps normally maybe you just might see one of them, but there's several issues that how you run a protest, they're fairly good examples of how to deal with them. Basically this evening we've got Tom Shepherd in the chair, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Tom Shepherd. So I'm going to pull out
apparently not yet.
2 volunteers to be his co-protest committee. Any volunteers right now who'd like to sit next to him? You don't have to do very much, but... I'll give you a few moments because I'm going to go outside and come back in again. When I come back in again, I'll just pick people if there aren't people sitting in the chairs. And then we have our protestors who I'm going to bring in when we get started. Do you want to say anything about protest procedure before we start, or?
Well, I think the way to do it is to go through it. I'm not quite sure how this is going to work because we really haven't rehearsed the actors, as it were, so there may be the odd glitch, but I hope it's going to be interesting and we'll do something. I will stop as something interesting happens and explain why we're doing that, or sort of get out of role as a protest and explain why it is we're doing what we are doing. And if you want to stop us at any time and ask questions about what we're doing, that's fine. It is a very complex protest, so and I'd quite like you to get lost in the middle of it. Okay.
Okay, that's not good news.
So for the purpose of this evening, I am the protest secretary. Is that right? And so I'll be doing the running in and out, and bringing people in and out when you need them.
Yeah.
So here we go. We have, Mr. Chairman, we have 3 protests that look pretty similar. You might want to have a look at these.
Okay.
Two volunteers for protest committee.
I can't stay here all the way through.
Okay. Patrick, I'm going to pick on you. Howard, do you want to sit alongside? The decision's already made for you later on.
Big hand for the victims. I mean, volunteers.
They're innocent. They're innocent. Wait until the victims come in.
Until proven guilty.
This is what we have been given. 55, 56 and 57. Okay. 55, 56 and 57. Just give you a few minutes to read it before we decide how to tackle this and we get the parties in.
So on the screen, just to give you guys a bit of an explanation, there's protest number 55. So it's 55, 56 and 57.
Just a minute.
And the one on the screen is 55 at the moment. Will I just leave that one up? Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're running a protest, give everybody a few minutes to look at the forms, especially if it's complex, because then they can work out what, in their own mind, they might want to ask and what they want to find out in order to decide who's right or wrong.
And the other protests are the same event, I assume?
Same event, same race.
Looks like a Mark Brando event.
Yeah.
I've had the benefit of looking at this, and my colleagues are doing that already, but as well. But to save a bit of time, we decided that they are all the same incident. and that we should be hearing them all together. Now, if you get more than one protest and you're satisfied that it is the same incident, the standard procedure is to take the first protest that was handed in as the one that you're going to hear, because all the facts are going to come out anyway for the other protests as well. So you just take the first one and you explain to the parties when they come in that you have more than one protest about the same incident and we're taking the first one, that everybody has the same opportunity for saying what they would have done had it been their protest that we were actually addressing. So at the moment, everybody's having a look at the protest.
Guilty.
But I think, shall we save some time? And we'll say, we've decided that they are all the same incident. So, Jury Secretary, would you mind bringing the
So just one more
parties in?
And you've already ascertained that the protests have been lodged appropriately?
No, we do that when they come in.
Sorry, Tom, you don't do that before they come in?
No.
So we have two of the sailors here. We've got Ben, who is cell number 41. He lodged protest number 55. And we've got Nick, who's cell number 18, who lodged 56. John, who's 14, who lodged 57, is currently in a doping test. So he's not available for the protest hearing.
Okay, well,
I like him already.
we have arrived at the time when we should normally be hearing the protest, the end of protest time, or in this particular case we said that we would start hearings 30 minutes after the end of protest time. So we've got the option, jury members, of either hearing the protest in the absence of John, or the rule requires that if there's a good reason, we shall extend the protest time. My recommendation is if he's in a doping test, that really has to be a good reason, and we should extend the protest time. Do you agree?
Agreed.
Agree? Now, what about number 40?
42.
42. Where's he?
Don't know. He hasn't shown face.
Okay, well, we'll give him until John gets here,
Okay.
and then if he's not here at that time, we'll proceed in his absence under Rule 63.3b. Okay?
So do you want to magically wait 10 minutes? Or
No, I think we
How long?
can see if he's finished. Okay, I did that. This is actually what happened in the case. One of the people was involved in the doping test, and we did extend the protest time. Well, we did extend his time to come to the protest because it was a valid reason. The other person did not turn up, so we heard it in his absence. So,
Doping themselves.
Bring this
How was that? Just having a split outside.
So this is cell number 14.
okay, does anybody have any questions about this timing situation? About time you allowed them to come to the hearing? Okay, so we have a protest. The time limit for submitting protests was 17:30, and I see the 55 was submitted at 17:02, 56 at 17:04, and 57 at 17:08. So all the protests are in time. So from that perspective, they're fine, and we should proceed. At this point, we should introduce each other. So would you mind telling us who you are?
Well, I'm JB, and I was the helm on star number 14.
Thank you.
Protester from boat number 41.
Your name is?
My name is Andrew Holden.
Okay.
And I'm DB, and my surname is 18.
All right. The jury protesters will now introduce themselves. You are?
Howard Williams.
I'm Tom Shepard.
And my name's Patrick.
Okay. Do any of you have any objections to any members of the protest? No. Okay, in that case we can continue. Now, it's your protest, so what did you do at the time of the incident to comply with the requirements for the protest to be valid?
Sorry, it took me by surprise. Yeah, we hailed, we immediately displayed a red flag, and we informed boat number 42 that we intended to protest.
All right, so what words did you use when you hailed?
We will protest you.
Good. And how long after the incident did you hail?
Immediately.
Immediately. And how long did it take you to put your flag up?
30 seconds maximum. Oh, pardon me. 5 seconds.
You don't seem very clear.
Smoking a cigarette.
Sorry, yeah.
5 seconds, 20 seconds.
I think that 5 seconds is a bit optimistic.
Do we have any problems with the validity of the protest? Do we have any problems? No. Okay, so we decided we have a valid protest and we'll continue. Right, stop for a moment. So does everybody understand what we've done? We've introduced, we first of all found the protest was in time. Then we've introduced everybody and given them the chance to object to the members of the protest committee. And we've established that it was a valid protest in terms of the flag and the hail. Right.
Tom, can I ask a question? How long would JB have had to have raised? I mean, he can shout protest straight away. How long have you got to get your protest flag up?
Well, if you want to be reasonably sure of not having it thrown out, you need to do it inside 20 seconds. If the protest flag is down below in the chart room, under the chart room table, it probably isn't going to be flown in time. The rule says that the flag should be flown at the first reasonable opportunity, and it's not the first reasonable opportunity if you've had to go downstairs and dig for it. So you really need to have it available in a bag, on deck, or tied around the shroud, or on, yeah.
In certain protests, rule infringement rules, you know, you could be at a mark, a jive mark, was in a relatively short-handed crew, you've got all sorts of things going on that if the other boat that you are protesting is changing your manoeuvre or making you do things that you haven't already planned, it can take substantially longer than 20 seconds to recover the security of your boat before you start looking at red flags.
Yes, it does. Yes, it could, and you had the opportunity to explain why you were long. You took longer in picking it up. It says reasonable opportunity, but you better have a good reason why it was late. Now, the reason for that is that if the other boat, the flag informs the other boat that you're protesting, and they have the opportunity of sailing clear immediately and taking their penalty. If you delay informing them, they might sail off on the other tack, and you've deprived them of the opportunity of taking the penalty on board. So unless you do it immediately, you may find that the protest is thrown out. Not always the case, but sometimes.
Tom, you didn't ask the protestee whether he agreed that he heard.
I didn't. I should have. I guess I should have done that. We haven't got a protestee actually.
Oh, sorry.
These are all protestors. Protestee. I think that was the reason why I didn't do it. The protestee is somewhere else.
I see. If he was here, you would.
If he was here, we would ask, did you hear?
And he'd be said, I didn't hear anything. So
Well, then you've got to
take
a bit, perhaps discussing a bit further. Where was he when you shouted? Quite often people are selectively deaf when it comes to hearing the shout of protest, and the protest committee's got to try and work that out. Sorry, you had a
Yes, sorry.
what's the longest time, in your experience, because you've been doing this for a while, what's the longest time that you've considered as being reasonable in order to pull a protest flag out?
Well, unless you're involved in another, in the boat is capsized or your master's fallen down, well, I'll come back to that. Unless something, you're tied up in something, as I say, you should do it within 20 seconds.
If somebody comes along and says it within 30 seconds or whatever,
Well, it
generally...
probably in a club race, you probably get away with it. In the World Championships, it would be regarded as too slow. So, you know, if you've got the flag in a bag to hand or tied around the backstay or something, there's no reason why it should take any time.
No, I agree. It's just a rule of thumb, really.
Yeah. But the rule of thumb is if you, maybe in the club protest you want to give them a bit longer, but in a race with experienced people, you would not expect it to take longer than 20 seconds.
And Tom, does it have to be a flag, or can it be a red T-shirt or a red hat?
There's a lot of case about this. It has to be something which very closely approximates the flag. So
Normally a flag.
A red cap won't do, or red underwear, which I've seen once or twice, won't do.
Unlikely to give us in 20 seconds.
Well, hey, trying to find a girl red underwear in 20 seconds. That's tricky enough. Never mind getting it given to you.
No.
Just say if you happen to have a red towel and you could tie it on so the corners made it look like a rectangular flag, you probably get away with it. With a T-shirt, you may not do, depending on how difficult the process really was.
So basically the takeaway is, if you think you're going to protest ever, have your protest flag handy and able to be deployed
Absolutely.
immediately.
Absolutely. Yeah. And not down below.
And is it true that there's a kind of boats shorter than a certain length don't have to carry it?
Less than 6 metres boats don't have to carry. If there's been damage which is obvious to both boats, then the requirement to fly a flag in hail doesn't apply.
You do get some classes that do have in their class rules, like the optimists and a few others, that they still have to have protest flag.
Okay. Right, so that's a preamble, so we're ready to go. Would you like to tell us what happened?
Yes.
You can use these models, use them any way you like, as long as the camera can see it.
Here's the wind, and this is the upwind mark. My boat number 1, or 41 in the diagram. It's coming in on the starboard ley line with this boat just to leeward of me. I was slightly ahead. So we're coming in on the starboard ley line, and I think it was this guy, number 42, I was protesting, and he had another boat around him. And these guys were going to pass ahead of us, but all of a sudden, this number 42 sat right in front of me, very quickly, into such a position where the only place I could go was down here. And in doing so, I hit both boats. I couldn't get anywhere through. And actually my boat was damaged. My leeward spread was damaged on boat number 2. And that caused my race to be ruined because I couldn't properly trim my sails.
Right, well, would you like to tell us what happened to you?
So,
It's all right, you can say up here. We're able to ask questions in a minute.
so I'm the green one here, on the starboard ley line. Ben, just above me, was just forward of me, and we had 2 boats approaching on port, and they were clearing us. They were just clearing our bows, and all of a sudden, this one tacked in ahead, forcing number 3 to also tack. And what happened was, number 3 tacked right in front of me, and couldn't do anything about it. I just ended up leaning the back of him, and I ended with a hole in my bow and damaging the main sheet travel on the back of number 3. Number 3 tacked to my water and didn't complete his tack, so that's why I tested him got this 14 years.
Okay. And what have you got to say?
I don't dispute any of those facts. In fact, I agree with all of those. Everything that's been said so far. I will only add to the facts that I was aware of the advantage of my position with regard to the tested boat, number 42. And I recognised that as long as we remained on a course to take us clear ahead of the 2 boats that were approaching the mark on starboard, as long as we held that course, and I held my position here, that 42 had no rights to tack without informing me, or unless I chose to tack first, because he could not tack and give me room to keep clear at the same time. And so I felt my position was relatively safe.
You're the blue boat, aren't you?
I'm the blue boat.
Yes, okay.
I'm the blue boat. And I knew well that was my, I had a position of advantage there. So when we reached this position, and I was comfortable that had we held our course, that was my intention. Had we held our course, we would have safely cleared these 2 boats approaching on starboard and rounded the mark. When he tacked without calling or giving me any warning of his intention to tack, I had no choice in order to avoid a collision but to tack myself. Having done so, the tack reduced my speed dramatically, and the collision that I noticed first, I didn't see any other, I wasn't immediately aware of the collision between boat number 41 and boat number 18 and boat number 42. What I was aware of is that boat number 18 rode up over my transom and damaged my main sheet assembly so severely that I could no longer sheet in the main. That's it.
Okay, right. Well, we will allow each of you to ask questions now. So, first of all, would you like to ask, since you were the first one with the story, would you like to ask him any questions?
Not really.
Would you like to ask 41 any questions?
Yeah, I would like to ask, were you satisfied that had we held our course, we would have cleared you, and we could have avoided a Rule 10 infringement?
Yeah, because that's what I was presuming you would do, and that's why the attack caught me by surprise when they did that, because I thought they were going to clear it, cross us, wood cell underneath them to the mark.
Thank you. Now, it's your turn to be questioned, so would you like to ask him any questions?
The same question.
Yeah, you were going to close.
Would you like to ask him any questions?
You saw my little shroud get damaged on the
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
Okay. So now, would you like to ask him any questions?
No questions.
Would you like to ask him any questions?
Was it impossible for you to duck behind, or duck behind both of these starboard boats? Why did you choose to tack in front of us rather than ducking on the back?
Because it was, by the time he chose to tack, I had no other option but to what you would call a crash track. That was the only way I could avoid a collision.
you've asked me
All
right. Okay. So, have you got any questions for any members of the any protest stores?
I have.
Right.
Okay, vote 41 represented by AH.
Yes,
Assume.
that's me. So
Okay.
but
Red. Okay. At the time of 42 tacking, what position were you in relation to their stern?
Just stay sitting down.
Okay, yeah. I think what because these guys had almost, or at least this boat had almost crossed ahead of me. By the time he started to swing his stern, it slowed him down, and we were coming in quite fast. And almost immediately, I found that I couldn't come away laugh up to clear him because his stern was there. And I think by the time we completed this tack, I was actually overlapped underneath him. I could not laugh away. The only option I had was to come into this step and to minimise the
So you were not in a position to tack off?
I couldn't come.
So
I couldn't tack away. We were coming in quite fast. He put a lot of rudder in and slowed his boat quite considerably. Before I knew it, I was just too close to his stern.
I want to ask the same similar question to 18. What options did you have for avoiding collision with?
Well, as I was sailing up, I could only really see.
Hold on a minute. The camera keeps going to sleep. Okay, go.
As I was sailing up, I could only really see this one here at first, and I could see that it was going clear ahead, so I thought it's absolutely fine. And as it then got closer and he then tacked here, it was then when I saw number 14. And I saw him starting to tack, and I thought if I bore away, I was definitely going to hit him on the side. I couldn't luff up because of what was going on up here, this whole mess. And so I was just sort of praying that he would be able to finish his tack in front, and then if I had to escape, I'd have gone down below. But in fact, the tack was so slow that I ended up just crashing into his stern.
Right. Anybody else got any questions? Okay, let's just pause for a moment. Anybody got any questions or comments?
Yeah, has Blue got an inside overlap on yellow?
Yeah.
No, I just like to know.
Blue is overlapped inside yellow. But it actually doesn't have any bearing on the case.
What?
It limits his where he can go, right? He can't love up. He's inside.
Yellow certainly can't luff up, right. Or you can luff up.
No, blue can't avoid the incident.
You can't bear
Can't
away.
bear
Can't
away.
bear away,
Yeah,
yes,
bear away.
yes.
Not love up and pull back.
You can't bear away.
This is hopefully within this agenda, but slightly outside it. There sounds like enormous amounts of insurance claims are going to be made any moment now. The output of the original decision from the protest committee, is that the primary source of information for any insurance claims, or is that just a start of a long drawn out process?
The protest committee is concerned with applying the racing rules. The protest committee is not an arbiter as far as right or wrong from an insurance company situation.
But it's still
however, most insurance companies will look at the protest committee's decision in determining who was at fault. The protest committee is not there to advise.
I appreciate that, but you know, if you're a big bow owner, you know, you've got an X55 which has just been severely damaged on was it? I think it was Eno. Yeah, that's a very expensive bit of repair. So you're saying that getting the representation of the protest committee wrong, it can be an expensive mistake.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So I've got a question, it's a slight question of justice actually. So the yellow boat who appears to have caused all this carnage, it doesn't appear to be represented here.
It's not.
Is it fair and just that this hearing should take place without him being here?
The rules provide that if somebody doesn't appear at the hearing may continue in his absence. However, if he comes back later with a good reason why he wasn't at the hearing, he may request to reopen.
Is that time
I
bar?
must make an observation in everything that you've done in terms of the way you put the votes out. I think it's unlikely from everything that all of you put there that the red boat or the blue boat was clearing over the red boat.
I think it's probably the space in the table, but the way
But
it's
if you
on
were
the
actually
water-
doing that in a protest room,
Well, we'd move around a bit more. They normally give you, sorry, Tim.
Yeah.
Well, they can give you a few of the same colour. So
no,
you
but
can
if you were
map
actually in a
stuff.
protest and you did that and it showed, all three of you, that you were not going to clear in your diagrams.
You have got to be careful when you put your boats down, but Tom
So
doesn't
sad.
really-
Tom, the timing for the protestee to reopen the hearing, is that time bar? Because of the insurance comments before.
Yeah. It is. It's 24 hours. I think.
The 66 is 24 hours. Right? 63
Well, it's a.
I think it's a reasonable time. I mean, if he had a good reason to be away, he was attending to an injury, he was in hospital, then if he was just out in the lash or having a check with a person, maybe he wouldn't.
Well, basically what happens here is the guy will come back and explain why he wasn't able to be at the protest committee. And the protest committee may reopen the hearing when various things becomes available within a reasonable time. So it's a question of a reasonable time, which is an interpretation by the protest committee.
So if you've got a serial protestee, you can say that they're a serial protestee, and it's a limited time, whereas if it's a one-off, you give them more leeway. That's what you're sort of saying, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I'm not quite sure what you mean by a serial.
Well, certainly each fleet has got certain votes that come close to the line quite a lot. So.
Right. But each case is dealt with on its individual merits.
So you're just saying it's not time bound.
It's within a reasonable time. So 1 or 2 days would normally be regarded as a reasonable time. We did have a case here a few years ago when there was some additional evidence which became available at with some photographs that were posted to the prize. We realised that the protest committee realised that it might have been made a mistake, and we reopened the hearing based on some photographs which were posted on something like the Wednesday night. But that's maybe a bit long, but it's whatever you regard as reasonable. Okay. Right, so everybody's made their opening statement, we've all asked questions. So would you now like to sum up?
Yeah, as this boat, I was having a good race. We were able to round the mark. I was given room to the boat below me. 41 and 42 through this tacking, there was nothing I could do, and actually my race, if not the regatta, is now ruined because my leeward shroud is broken. So my protest against them is for that breach.
Okay, actually, I've made a mistake. We should have gone into the damage in more detail. So can we just back off this for now? Right, so would you like to describe what the damage was?
Yeah, well, as I bore away here, the way I hit my leeward shroud against his wig, against his wig, and
Sorry, which boat was that now?
this is the red boat here. This guy tapped in front of me,
Yes.
and in my avoiding action, my leeward shroud
Yes.
hits this guy's rig,
Really?
and actually it's damaged the wire, and I've got no tension on that side.
Damaged or broke?
Damaged. The wire's still there, but it's still hanging there. But also the change plate at the bottom is slightly pulled out.
Okay, do you want to ask any questions about the damage?
Was there any damage to your boat?
Yeah. So, in trying to avoid 14, when I smacked into the back of him, took a big chunk out of my bow, and didn't realise until I got back on shore, but the inside tank had a huge amount of water inside.
Was there any damage due to the collision with boat 41?
No, luckily my rig's in with the code.
Would you describe your damage?
Sustained broken block on the main sheet assembly, and I could not get couldn't sheet in adequately to get top performance from the main for that race.
Okay, do we want to go and inspect the damage before giving redress?
Yes.
I think we do, yes. Right, so we've gone to inspect it. Come back.
Terrible, wasn't it?
Okay, yes, so if it is, it can have a significant effect, and you want to go and see what the damage was. We did see that your port spreader was pushed right back, and clearly your mast bend was not going to be at all correct on start port attack. And we also saw that your large hole in the bow of your boat, which you can imagine resulted in a bow tank pulling out.
And I had to carry it for the other 2 races of the day as well.
And we also observed that your main sheet track was considerably mangled and the block was completely broken and you couldn't play the main sheet at all. Okay.
Sorry, Tom, can I ask a question? So it's a nit comment. So if the damage you receive significantly disadvantages you for further races during the day, are you seeking redress for the whole day, or do you have to do it a race at a time in your protest?
Well,
in the system.
We're going to ask them in a minute what redress they're seeking. So I'll now ask you one by one what sort of redress are you seeking? It's not necessary that we can give it to you, but we normally like to get your feeling in that.
Well, considering the rest of the fleet were miles behind and we were the first 4 boats, I would feel that something quite reasonable. We've done well in the whole series, which proved ourselves to be very good sailors. And we probably would have won this had it not been for this this collision. But I would say maybe an average of our positions there, 1, 2, 3, and 4, reflecting on the fact that the rest of the fleet were not contending for this race.
Well, the fact that I won the first race of the day, and again we were top 4 in this race, and when you're carrying a good extra 15-20 kilos of water in an Olympic class of sailors, my other results of the day were like an 8th and a 13th, so it's really going to damage my series. So I want redress for the day.
Okay.
We replaced the block for the next race, so I'm only concerned with redress for this race. In this race, my performance was affected. My result was affected.
All right. Is it relevant whether the boats carried on racing or whether they retired?
Not necessarily, from the point of view of redress. The rule says that they were significantly disadvantaged by, in this case, a boat that was required to keep clear.
But it would be, I suppose, good evidence as to whether they thought the damage was impacting their performance or not.
Yes, the jury's got to feel satisfied that it did have an effect on them, and we're going to discuss that in a minute. I mean, we always ask what redress they're looking for, more out of politeness than anything else, and then we decide what is reasonable. We're told that we have to find a solution which is as fair as possible for all the boats involved, which is these people and the other people in the fleet.
But you wouldn't necessarily seek to understand whether they carried on racing or whether they retired as a result of the incident.
It's useful information to have, yes. I think they all carried on racing.
Well, we carried on and we did pretty rubbish.
Wasn't aware of the damage until after the race.
Okay, did you sum up? I think you did.
I think I
Have you? Would you like to sum up?
I think I did. So, yeah, I couldn't see number 14 until last minute. Couldn't avoid, so I was just hoping he'd be able to finish his tack in front of me. And he couldn't, and I couldn't avoid, so I just didn't have anywhere to go, just hid into the back of number 14 and made a hole in my bow, and yeah, which didn't help my racing for the day, but I couldn't avoid it.
Okay, and you?
I have nothing to add to my summary.
Thank you very much. All right, so if you gentlemen would like to wait outside, we'll consider what happens next.
Don't split on the way out.
It's passed his test.
Well, he was doing a dope test, so I wonder if he's still going to...
Okay, so let's try and sort something out here, shall we? So I think we have reasonable agreement on the facts. Do you agree? You agree?
Yes, I do. And all three votes concur with the events. Basically, no argument and no single thing with regards to what took place.
Right, so all that remains really is for us to find whose fault it was and who broke which rule and to write it up. So I guess we will find that number 42 was responsible for this whole thing.
That's the yellow one, yeah.
Yes. And number 42 did not, first of all, in terms of the protest from 41, did not give 41 rule under 18.3b. Having tacked inside the zone, 41 became overlapped inside 42 and then tacked to water thereafter. Sorry?
So that hadn't been addressed as part of the hearing, and no one had asked whether this took place within 3 movements or not.
It was written in here, so that there's 41 tacked within the zone immediately in front of it.
Okay, but while we are pressed in time, we haven't asked the protesters what rules they thought was broken.
They've actually spelled it out in their protest.
They have.
But if, as a protest tour, do you just need to explain the circumstances of what you're protesting against, rather than the number 13?
You don't have to define the number of the rule that you think is broken.
Okay.
Right, so we think 42 broke 18 3b with respect to 41. Just staying with 41 for a minute. 41 was windward vote to 18. And 41 hit 18. So 41 broke rule 11 with respect to number 18. Does anybody have any argument with that?
Sorry, rather than doing numbers, can we talk colours? Because
Okay, 40, let's do it on here if we can make that work. Okay, so 41, his middle boat, hit 18, in fact as a result of the position of the yellow boat. But 41 was a windward boat, and 41 is required to keep clear of 18.
Yep.
So 41 broke rule 11, which is a windward boat to keep clear.
Yep.
But he should, in my view, and my colleagues may have some different view on it, he should be exonerated because he was forced to break it because of the action of the yellow boat. Okay? So he broke rule 11 with his exoneration.
Is he? That's full stop.
Well, that's his our decision. I mean,
Right, okay.
Yeah, he would be. He was.
Yeah. I know it wasn't his fault, but yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Okay.
what it is. I mean, being going through all the rules and getting them all down, he broke rule 11, but he's exonerated. So another boat forced to do it. 41 did not have the opportunity of avoiding a collision. Do we agree with that? Yes. So 41 did not break rule 14.
The red boat.
Red boat. Yeah, I get it. Yep.
Time and opportunity.
Right, so the next thing we might consider is the situation of the green boat. The green boat hit, which is 18, hit 40. Yeah, like that. So he had a convenience attack. So 14 broke rule 13, which is tacking in somebody else's water, with respect to 18.
Yeah.
Did we think 18 had any opportunity of keeping clear?
I think I'd like to ask him a bit more questions if we may about that particular opportunity.
Well, we certainly can. If you want to call them back in again, we
You'd
can.
like him not to.
No, I mean, this is all about procedures.
I think in truth you probably answered it.
You did ask him, and he did answer it.
Yeah.
But
Same day.
I mean, this is both about rules and procedures tonight. And if the protest committee is unsure about something, then rather than make a decision when we haven't got all the information, call them back in again and say we want to ask another question.
The green boat, well, I mean, to scale, it's all a bit different. It all seems very, very different, you know, on the water and at what pace you're going and all that kind of stuff. But it does look to me that the green boat could have just bore off. It may have glanced off sideways, the red boat, if it was that close, but it could possibly have avoided the stern of the blue boat. They had no choice, either tacked or T-boned.
They had no choice.
They had no choice.
Two probably had quite a rat, so it was ready for the...
It depends on how quickly blue tacked. Blue might have just seen it as a mess and tacked very quickly.
Yeah, I get the impression that it
Someone
had
said it
no...
was a slow tack.
Yeah, green say it is very slow. That's why you
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe it was slow tack because he was kind of hoping that he could have hardened up if yellow hadn't kind of...
Well, I'd give him the benefit of the doubt and say he wouldn't hit him if he didn't have to.
If you knew you were in a
Okay,
shitstorm,
I mean,
you'd try and
these
slow
guys
everything down.
were not were doing their best to
Yeah.
pick up somebody else's situation and answer the question. The blue boat.
Yes, saying that was his form. Cylinder 18. That was his diagram, but probably doesn't actually help you very much.
The blue boat did a crash tack to avoid hitting the yellow boat. And the crash tack was right in front of the green boat. And the green boat did not have the opportunity of avoiding it. That's what we found. Right, okay. So the green boat did not break rule 14 because he couldn't reasonably avoid the collision. The blue boat broke rule 13, but he was forced to break rule 13 because the yellow boat tacked him.
Yep.
So the blue boat is exonerated because he broke a rule as a result of another boat infringing him.
If this was a crime thrill model, I would wonder if the guy in the yellow boat is not here because he's in hospital because of a heart attack. Therefore, he had no opportunity to make the decision to protect any of the racing rules. But I'm not James Patterson.
But he must have known he was being protested because they all waved their red flags.
But he was having a heart attack at the time.
Well, he wasn't, in fact. He was
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to...
Actually, that's one thing which I don't think we were clear on, is which boats did they protest?
Oh, well, they said...
we asked them to raise the flag and was it in time and did they further hail the other boat? But what was the other boat?
Well, do you just do I protest you, or do I protest you?
I mean, the boat 2 can hardly protest the green boat can hardly protest the yellow boat.
Because we can't even see the yellow boat.
Because he may have been blindsided to what actually was. All he can do is protest the boat in front of it.
We should probably... it was written on their protest form. We could have clarified it.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Sorry, it's on the form which boats they were protesting?
Yes, yes. So, is there anything else we need to do?
Once the protests have all been merged, presumably that isn't critical. As long as they've got a protest, they've got a situation involves 4 boats. It's not critical which boat they protested. They're not going to be denied redress because there was another boat they might have protested.
No, we need to find out who broke which rules. We need to establish the facts of the situation and find out which rules have been broken by which boat, and which boat, if any, can be exonerated.
And which one has the ultimate responsibility?
So if the blue boats in our example didn't protest anything, or would they still be part of the protest?
Yes, they would.
Yes. They've been protested.
They've been protested. We can find the
so the green boat maybe didn't get protested by anybody.
He was protesting.
Yes, the green boat didn't get protested.
But had he not protested at all, would you still be considering his position in this incident?
We might well consider redress for him, yes.
So, for example, if the blue boat had found time to bear off and get out, so the green one didn't hit him,
yeah,
would he be just called as a witness, or would...
Well, in that case, there wouldn't have been a collision between blue and green, and blue might have been called as a witness as to what happened between yellow, red, and green.
But if green again, sorry, could have. But if blue had got out of the way, could then red have protested green by saying you were clear in front because blue had got out of the way and you didn't take sufficient avoiding action to stop?
Sorry, I'm confused now.
Okay, so sorry, and this I know this is not bad. My brain works weird. This one,
yeah,
okay, it gets rammed up the blunty end.
Yeah.
Okay, because of all of this. If it had had sufficient time and opportunity, or sacrificing the race to get out of the way.
If he'd been able to avoid the collision, he should have done so.
Yep, exactly. That's not quite established yet. We're assuming so. But if he had got out of the way, and this one here could have gone that way, there would be no damage between there and there. So at the moment we're transferring all the guilt that way, but
But the blue boat said, he also said that he couldn't see what was happening below, but as the skipper, his crew should be feeding him information as to how fast the green boat and the red boat were coming up, and if they're within 2 boat lengths, I think, of the boat, the speed, they should be estimating the speed and taking avoiding action. But he said he couldn't see what was happening.
Right up to the very last minute, everything was rosy.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm complicating things.
It's only because the yellow boat tag
But
with all
they
the
should
tag.
take the 360 turn rather than tap
And everybody agreed with this vision.
Sorry, who should
take the 360.
He couldn't. Because the yellow boat, because of the position, they were like
Right
this.
in front of them here.
The green guy couldn't see.
The yellow boat was below.
The yellow boat was like that, and the yellow boat just went like that.
Yeah.
And so if he'd gone round,
You couldn't get
You
behind the
couldn't,
stern.
not behind him.
When you think the blue boat would have done that?
Yes, yes.
Well,
And
Didn't have enough time.
it's not enough time.
But if his crew was watching the speed of
Yeah,
the
but-
yellow
Yeah,
and
but
the
you
green
can't
and the
make
red
the
boat,
They were clearing these boats.
there is a rule, isn't there, that the two within 2 boat lengths,
No, there
they
isn't.
should be estimating the speed.
No, there's a rule that you must keep it, there's a requirement for you to keep a good lookout. There's no rule about it. There's no rule that says anything about 2 boat lengths. In this situation, Blue was expecting just to cross in front of the other 2 boats and that there would be no problem.
And he had water on yellow.
Yeah.
So he thought he was famous.
Yeah.
Bum in the butter.
What?
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yep, no, I get it. Smaller boats, you'd go, yeah, why not? On a big boat, you would go, not enough wiggle room there.
Nappies, please.
Yeah,
Stars.
yeah.
You know what they are?
What is a star?
It's a starboard.
Two person.
Give the rule.
Two person. No, no, it's big.
Small boat.
Bigger. It's
Like
like
an
a strike,
actual.
like an actual, but 2 person.
It's
I mean, we
there.
know
Do
what
that when
they
you
are.
can.
It's still fast. You do that with survey.
Yeah.
Okay, so we
So we digress.
Moving on.
Shall we move on? So,
Yes.
So we decided basically who was right and who was wrong on this thing. And our decision is that yellow is to be disqualified. Now we have to decide whether the other votes are entitled to redress. Are you satisfied that their position was made significantly worse as a result of damage caused by a vote who should be keeping clear?
Yes. I think their performance, all 3 boats' performance would have been impaired as a result of the incident for that race. I'm surprised that the red boat is not requesting redress for the day, whereas the green boat is. Because both sets of damage is not repairable within the day. But that's the only thing that I would question in my mind.
I can't remember whether there was only one race on the day or not.
But I would expect them
Yeah.
to treat the red and the green boat exactly the same way with regard to redress, whether it's for the day or for the incident. Both
On the
free
clubs,
repair.
which one's got the damaged shrouds and which one's got the hole in the bow?
Red's
Red's
got the damaged shroud, he's got a hole in the bow.
Okay, and the
And
green
he-
one is saying, I just want redress for that.
No, for the
They
day.
want the whole day.
They want the whole day. This one of the
He
boats.
said, the blue boat said he only wants
Right,
redress
'cause he
for that
fixed his
race,
track.
because he fixed it.
Right, okay.
But it may have been part of the acting. So, okay, yes.
Okay, so we have to decide what a fair redress would be. Have you got any suggestions?
Do with one more boat, really. Can you give them 2.5? Or
Well, a very typical.
if there's only 4 boats, I think.
Well, there are a lot of boats in the fleet.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm assuming that we've established that what they said was correct, but the rest of the fleet were way back. So they were the first 4 lead boats, and they were quite some distance ahead of the pack. So how does redress work? Do you just give it out of the 4 or the total?
This is the second race.
Yes, just
race number 2, yeah.
sounds a bit like
the Protest Committee can make up its own mind as to what they think is fairest for these boats and the other boats in the fleet. That's defined in the rule. It's a very typical situation. If it's something that you can work out that a boat has lost 5 minutes because they went to help another boat, or because the mark was moved and it took them 5 minutes to get to where it was and back again to where it should have been, then sometimes giving them a time redress is fair and a good way of doing it. If you've got a situation like this where you really can't estimate how much the boat's performance has been affected by the damage, then the usual way of doing it is to give them average points. Average points. Well, you've got a choice. You can give them average points for all the races so far, the average of their position in all the races completed so far, or you can give average points for all the races in the regatta, and then that's calculated at the end of the week. Or one which is increasingly popular is to give them average points for all the races up to the end of the day before the last day of the regatta. The reason for that is that everybody goes into the last day knowing what their positions are and what they have to do in order to win a medal or whatever it is. And of course, when I'm talking about averages, you exclude the races that they were damaged in.
And the average is that individual's boat's performance.
It's that individual, the average of that boat's position or finishing position in all the races that you're counting. Sorry?
So may I just dive in here? So the boat, red boat, I think it was, was effectively permanently damaged for the course of this regatta.
Well, let's count. Yes, okay. Let's assume it was.
Yeah.
We'll deal with that.
And there are another 6 races to run. Run one race, did rather well. He said he did rather well.
Okay. Well, there is a. Let me jump in. There's a Q&A. If you go to the ISAF website, you'll see a lot of situations are being questioned by people, and they're considered by a number of judges, and there's considered opinion put out as an answer. There is a question about this, about a boat that was damaged in the 3rd race of the series, and how many races is it fair to give them average points for? And the answer that was given was that a boat should have completed more actual positions. I haven't said that well, I'm sure you know what I mean. There should be more real finishing places than finishing places given on redress. So that means that that in a 7-race regatta, and he's only finished 3 races, you can only give redress for 2 races.
In terms of redress, Tom, I know you initially said the boat needs to be disadvantaged, but I know we moved on to the boat needs to be damaged.
Yes.
I've got 2 questions. The first one is, he does need to be damaged, I understand, to get redress.
He does.
Not just be disadvantaged.
He does.
The second one then is, if he is damaged like one of the boat was with a hole in the bow, but at the time didn't think it was that serious because he kept on racing and did the race afterwards, does that lead you to think then that the damage wasn't serious?
Well, you need to question it
and
work it out.
Yes.
I mean, it's not, nothing is automatic. It's what you do.
Does the damage need to be, well, obviously that serious damage, he's got a hole in his bow, but does the damage need to be sufficient that it's deteriorating his sail?
damage needs to make his position significantly worse.
But I mean, you can have an incident and you get in a worse position. That won't give you redress because you're
That's
damaged.
correct. You
So
could
that's
be,
why I'm trying to get this concept of damage. Just does it have to?
it has to. His position has to be made worse because of the damage, and not worse because of the position that he ended up with after the incident.
So he's starting slower.
Yeah.
And he needs to show that he can be starting slower.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In this situation, he actually volunteered that he didn't realize the extent of the damage until he finished the race.
Yeah, he did.
He did say that.
He did say that.
You know, again, these guys are doing their best to
Yeah.
beat somebody else's situation. He also said that he was worse that he won the first race and that he was 17th and 18th in the other two or something. So
And got a whole lot of water in the back.
Can you explain again calculations of how you assign average score for the remaining of the race, the deductible after the damage, not race? How do you make the judgment? Say for example 7 races you just mentioned, right? You actually finish 3 races, then the 4 race she can't finish. Yeah, she got damaged at race number 3, right? So 4, 5, 6, 7 she didn't race. So how many redress we can give? And how to come up with that number? Is that 1 race, 2 race, 3 race, 4 race?
the question and answer that was posed to ISAP about this, the answer that came back, which we use as guidance, is that there should not be any more, in fact there should be more races in which she has genuine, completed
So for this example, you finish 3 races, right?
Then your example, she finished 3 races, so she should not have redress for more than 2 races. Because it's got to be less than 3.
So in that case, I mean, how to carry on with that? Okay, so
Right,
the this company assign 2 races with average results, so totally we have results for 5 races, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the 6 and 7?
The position that the boat finished in, or the DNS or whatever happened.
But I mean, presuming the boat are damaged in that sense, right? They cannot, she cannot race for the actually 4 races, right?
Yeah.
So we've got these arbitrary results for the 2 races, right? And then the 2 remaining.
Are the actual positions, actual scores that she scored in those races?
That's kind of quite inequitable if this was a 3-race day. So race day 1 you had 3 races, and this was the 2nd day and it was 3 races again, and she'd been pinged in the first race of the day.
Right.
That's a bit tough, isn't it?
Well,
so she gets redressed for she gets redressed for race 4 and 5, and the 3rd race of the day she doesn't get any redress for.
She's done 3 days.
And she's got 3 today.
she did 3 the day before.
So
How
she's
many
done
races?
3.
So give me the figures and we'll work it
Okay,
out.
so let's pretend 3 on day 1, 3 races on day 1, 3 on races on day 2.
Yep.
She gets pinged on race 4.
Only
The first
2
one-
only 2 days racing.
Only 2 days racing in our pretend scenario.
Yep. So she completes 3 races on day 1.
And does fabulously.
Right. On day 2,
She
in the
gets
first
pinged.
race, she gets damaged. So she can get redress for 2 of the races on day 2. Not for the 3rd.
And there's 1 drop, so she still wins.
And Tom, it's average points for the first 3 races. Not
It's
including
the average
races.
of the first 3 races.
And so if she goes on and completes race 4 in damaged condition, you don't count that race in the average.
You don't count race 4 because that was where she was damaged. So she gets 2 sets of average points. I mean, it's playing God a bit. This is deciding that you have to try and be as fair as you can to the whole fleet. Now, one of the approaches for redress, which I've done and I've used in Hong Kong a couple of times, is if you've got a situation and let's say a mark has been put in the wrong place or something, half the fleet have gone the wrong course. You know anything you decide in terms of redress, you're likely to get complaints from the rest of the fleet. If the protest committee hears a request for redress from one boat and gives it to her, and the rest of the fleet don't, or somebody else in the fleet doesn't like the redress that was given, they can request redress for the action of the protest committee, for an improper action of the protest committee. So this can go on for a long while, so it can get very messy. So a very sensible approach, particularly if there aren't a lot of votes in the fleet, is to bring all the fleet in as parties to the hearing. As a party to the hearing, can't request redress for the action of the protest. And you give them a chance to say something, or to hear and make a statement and ask questions. And everybody's happy with that as an arrangement.
Can I just ask if you invite them, but only one or two cups?
That's up to them. You hear it in their absence.
Right, so it's a point of inviting them as against the more.
It gets posted.
It's posted.
They
It's
can
posted.
choose to read it or not.
It's a tie. If they want to come, if they don't come,
Tom, it could be the following day, right? You wouldn't. To be able to get notice out to all competitors, it might not be the same day.
You might want to do it the following day. You might want to find a big room as well.
But there'll be an SI somewhere in the serving instructions, the race instructions. There'll be a, if a flag gets posted or whatever.
No, you normally just put a notice on the protest committee board.
Yeah.
On the protest committee board.
Yeah, you normally in the regatta you'll have a notice board for the protest committee or the jury, on which you will have a schedule of hearings and results of previous hearings, and you put the notice on there that there is going to, under the schedule of hearings, that there is going to be a redress hearing.
And that's where, because it's saying if it was here, one would not go into the sailing office there to check on something if you were a boat that was not involved. So if you're saying that you would put a notice there for the fleet to attend a protest hearing, then I would think...
You get a class captain.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, word gets out.
Not necessarily,
But you're saying that's enough?
That's enough, yeah. Well, it depends. I mean, there is no rule in Hong Kong that requires you to do that.
But in the regatta, World Fleet, then it would be expected that those kind of processing systems are in place.
It's not required. It is required in America under prescriptions of the American rules. It's not required in most world events, but most juries will do something like this to avoid the ongoing chain of redress hearings.
Tom?
Yeah.
Very basic question. I thought you said that you can never claim redress unless you have damage which affects your performance.
No, that's one of the grounds.
What are the other grounds? Then you go to the example of a mark being moved.
Well, it's an act or omission by the race committee or protest committee, or I forget the exact word, but going to help another boat in. So there are four items that you can claim redress for.
But not just the incident that you got pushed back.
If you've been pushed the wrong side of the mark by somebody who broke a rule and didn't give you water to get round the mark, that's just tough.
Yeah.
Unless you were damaged on the process. You can't claim redress for that.
So, for example, if Blue, which clearly, according to his opinion, was in a championship winning position at the time that Yellow decided to have a brain issue, and supposing just in the instance that it did have sufficient room, although dangerously insufficient, but he had sufficient room to take himself out of a winning position and come round the cluster, whatever it became, and come round, and if there hadn't been that much damage, it would have lost 3 places at least. But the rules being broken and protesting the others, would he have to protest them out and dismiss them? Or would he get redress for taking the safe long
He would
route?
not get redress because he wasn't damaged.
Fine, okay, understood.
He was unlucky not to be
Yeah, but he'd protest them out and they'd get disqualified for whatever.
We might.
Potentially.
Sorry?
The
block.
Oh, the block. Only the block.
The block and the track.
Or the stern.
But the interest of the protesters not being too drunk.
Okay, I think, so our decision is around somewhere. So
you want to put that up? Yeah. So you've got the facts found, conclusions, rules applicable, decision.
Well, I like the way that we've taken out the country element. So that we couldn't possibly be steered towards Germany, for instance.
That Italian that hasn't turned up yet.
He's just getting his car fixed.
So will I call them back in and...
Call them back in, we'll read them the...
Okay. If they're still in the car. John's there.
This one.
Yeah.
Where does this get posted? Is this the jury posts this at the end of each protest? In this detail?
Yes.
Sure.
Gets written up and posted usually on a big event that has a website.
So it'll be on the event website?
It'll be on the website, and usually there'll be a hard copy on the protest board as well. Okay, gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We had to debate this event. I will read the facts found, conclusions. Okay. First of all, procedural matters. The hearing was held under Rule 63.3b in the absence of 42. The time limit for case 57 was extended because the protester was involved in a doping test. Facts found. 41 and 18 were approaching the windward mark on starboard with with 41 overlapped to windward. Both boats were laying mark. 42 and 14 entered the zone on port, with 14 overlapped to windward, and both on a course to cross 41 and 18. 42 crossed 41 and tacked in the zone. 14 tacked directly in front of 18 to avoid the collision with 42, who was beyond head to wind and not yet close haul. 18 was unable to avoid 14, and there was a collision between the bow of 18 and after deck of 14, causing damage to both boats. 18 suffered damage to her bow, causing her to take on water. 14's main sheet block was broken, preventing her from trimming the main addition. 41 was sandwiched between 42 and 18. 41 suffered damage to her port spreader, preventing the mast from bending properly. Conclusion and rules applicable. 42 did not give mark room for 41, who was unable to avoid the collision with 42 and 18. 42 broke rule 18.3b with respect to 41, causing 41 to break 11 with respect to 18. 42 broke rule 13 with respect to 14, causing 14 to break rule 13 and 18 3A with respect to 18.
Every following so far. Too many 13, 14.
41 infringements with respect to 18 are exonerated under 18.5A. 14 infringements with respect to 18 are exonerated under Rule 64(1)(c). Neither 18 nor 41 broke Rule 14. 14 was compelled to break Rule 14 by the action of 42, and it is exonerated under 64(1)(c). Performance of 41, 18 and 14 was impaired as a result of damage, and they are entitled to redress under 62(1)(b). Decision. 42 is DSQ. Redress is granted to 41, 18 and 14, who are to be scored in race 2. The average points for all races up to the end of 15th of December, excluding the race in question. The score should not be worse than the actual finishing position in race 2.
What happens if they leave?
Well, they get the actual finishing position in race 2. It should also have said there that no other positions should to be affected. So you might get 2 seconds or whatever.
And Tom, I mean, 42? I mean, do we know where he's been?
Well, we don't know. Did I hear that you...
Yeah, so we've just heard from 42.
Well, you gentlemen are excused. You want to go back on top.
So 42 has just come and presented themselves. They realised or heard that the hearing was taking place, and they'd like to reopen the hearing. And we have 42 in, and so would we bring them in?
The culprit.
Working on your What did I do? Supposed to go forward. Come over here.
Right, and you are?
I'm 42. I am 42.
Then may I introduce...
Harold Williams.
Patrick. Okay. Do you have any objections to any amendments?
Not at all. I'm fine.
Now, what do you wish to tell us?
I hear there's a protest involving myself. I don't understand. I'd like to take
There has been a protest hearing concerning an event in which you were involved. The protest hearing was posted properly in accordance with
It's not
rules.
possible.
But would you please explain to me why it's not possible?
It's not possible. I went to the office. I said, "Is there any protest?" They said, "No." I went.
So what time did you go?
Oh, around the time, around almost not possible.
So would you like to be more specific?
Around 5:30, almost 5:30. About 20 minutes.
So the protest hearings were not scheduled to be posted until 5:30.
Like I say, almost 5:30.
So are you sure there was no posting for you at 5:30 since you weren't there?
At 5:20 there was no posting.
All right. Okay. Do we have any questions, Michelle? Do you have any questions?
I think they're going to leave it for you, Tom.
All right. Would you like to leave the room for a moment? I think we'd like to get a report from the jury secretary as to when the process was actually posted on the list. So, jury secretary, can we have a report from you on that?
On time.
What time is that?
Do I know that?
Look at how funny.
Was it in the decisions or?
No, it's 5:30 actually.
Okay, it's 5:30 actually.
You're an echo.
Okay. Well, I think we should allow the 42 to question the jury secretary on that.
Yes.
So 42, would you like to come back?
The jury secretary would like to.
42. we've had a report from the jury secretary that the protest, the notification of the protest was properly posted at 17:30. Would you like to ask him any questions about that?
You sure it was 17:30? I was there. I was asking the girls. They said no protest. They said no protest. I went to work.
Yeah, we absolutely posted it.
But you told us that you were there at 17:20.
17:20, 17:30.
Did you see the protest secretary?
I asked the girls. I said, "Is there any protest involving me?" They said no.
Which girls did you ask?
The girls in the room.
Okay, I think
they were not so helpful.
So I think I'm satisfied that I understand what happened. Are you satisfied?
Yes.
Are you satisfied? Shall we just discuss? We won't discuss it. We just tell him now.
Yes, absolutely.
We've arrived at the conclusion that the protest was properly posted at 17:30. That it may not have been posted at 17:20 anyway. So your responsibility was to check at 17:30 as is specified in the sale instructions. We see no grounds for reopening here.
Yes,
How if he said he got there at 5:40 and not seen there?
20.
Not if. What is it? Because you can't find it.
They're different protests.
Okay.
Tom, does the fact that someone told him there were no protests count?
Well, there may have been no protests at 5:20.
But they were posted at 5, 6 and 7. No, they were put in at 5.
Posted it.
Well, yes, they were, but it takes time to get for the admin to get protests through into the race office. The sailing instructions said protests will be posted at 17:30.
I think the limit of the expectations is what is written in the sailing instructions. So if it says there's an official notice board and it'll be put up there,
you should wait for that.
You should wait till 17:30.
Don't take word of mouth from some guy who's just come off the committee.
So I'm very sorry, we are unable to push this any further for you.
Don't you then say I've got a video of the event?
I have, and he probably has other videos that he'll be on the strip later on.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Great job.
Well, hang on, there's one. You have to
Are we
leave the
going
room.
again?
Yeah.
Oh.
You need to prepare the room.
So some time passes, and then I come back with another report. Apparently, our Italian friend 42 has been cursing and swearing at the sailing office.
It's not possible.
Have to bring this to the attention of the protest committee.
Well, I think we should regard it as rather serious, don't we?
Yes. Is that in relation to this particular
Yes.
the SQ result?
Yes, he was shouting at the sailing office staff and using foul language. Never happens.
Is this before 5:30 or after 5:30?
Oh, this happened after he left the room.
Oh, okay.
Right, so I think we need to talk to our Italian friend again, don't we?
Just as a point in case here, it's already been disqualified. What can you do, sir?
And
Well,
aren't you out of time anyway?
no, this now becomes a report and a hearing under Rule 69, for which there isn't the time limit. It's behaviour like to bring the sport into disrepute.
I mean,
Or gross
whenever it happens off the water, 4 hours after a race, you can be incredibly rude to someone.
Yep.
In the pub.
In a 15 Worlds in Timaru, Charles Apthorpe was incredibly rude to the wife of
Graham Robinson's wife.
Right?
I was there.
Yeah, we were all there. And there was a Rule 69 hearing about that.
Off the water.
Off the water. In the prize giving.
Prize giving dinner.
He
You want language?
this was the result of which
You want
was
language?
slap in the wrist.
I think he wasn't allowed to sail, I think, in 2 World Championships, Darren.
Oh, good.
Or at least 1. But we didn't see him for a while. That's for sure.
Shocking.
Right, so can we hand this gentleman back again?
Bring back.
I tie back.
Good evening again, very nice to see you. I have to tell you that we have a report that you were using foul language in addressing the members of the race office earlier this afternoon. Is this true?
Yeah, it's not possible. I know, no.
Well, in that case, I'm required to call some evidence. If you had said that in the heat of the moment you became excited and were
I may shout a little bit. I'm Italian.
and would like to apologise to the ladies, then I think we could probably take it no further. But if you say it didn't happen, we will have to do so.
Well, maybe I apologise.
From the bottom of your heart.
I suggest you go and buy them a nice bunch of flowers.
Okay?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
We're done?
We're done, yeah.
Well, thanks,
So Tom, how long did that all take then? That sounds like about 3 hours work.
Oh, it was a long, long time.
Very good.
Well, thank you very much to everyone who joined in, and particularly Tom.
And where's our hand? Seems to be
Oscar goes to
And that brings our series to an end, really.
Thank you very much.
And but you know, we are sort of going to look at what we've done so far, and you know what you guys perhaps would like to hear next time. So do send me any feedback.
No, in all seriousness, Richard's done a great job in sort of getting it all done and getting them on the right place and shoving them around. It's not easy. So thanks to Richard.
Yes.
And next year we will be running another series. So we need input. What works, what doesn't work, and what more we can do.